welcome to another edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. I'm Gary Mack, and I'm joined, as always, by the great Rich Baxter. Hello, Mr. Baxter. How are you this frigid Sunday here in the Northeast?
Yes, it is. It's frigid. It's the fifth Sunday of the new year here, talking all about the world of baseball. And there's a little ray of sunshine out there today, at least, Gary. We have had a tough couple days here, but I think I heard 60s by the weekend, possibly.
Oh, I hope you're right. Like you do for that. I need to thaw out the old body, the old bones there with this cold weather. Wow, I'll tell you, the other night I was sitting here, I had a sweater on and a blanket, and I was still chilly, but it is what it is, right? There's not much we can do about it.
Yes, it is. And we're thinking spring already. And, it's right around the corner for spring training in Florida and Arizona. And I know we talked about it on our last show where we were going to, talk about different stadiums that there are down there in Florida and both Arizona.
Right.
And we'll do that on this show today and also go over the schedule for the reporting because, it's February 5th here as we're doing the show. And probably in 8 days or so is the first reporting. Let's go over the dates here. And of course, this year, the World Baseball Classic is happening. So a lot of the MLB camps are opened early for that. In fact, they'll be open on Monday, February 13th. And that's not tomorrow, but the next following Monday. MLB camps will be open. All players participating in the tournament will report by Thursday, February 16th. So the camps are opening a little bit early. Pitchers and catchers follow. And some of the workout dates, Atlanta Braves, February 16th for the players, 21st for the pitchers and catchers. And I'm sorry, it's backwards. The regular players are first, February 16th, and then the pitchers and catchers are first, actually. So, that's about the dates that most teams are reporting, around the 15th, 16th, except if you're in that World Baseball Classic. So that'll be interesting this year.
Yeah, that should be a pretty good matchup, and we'll see. I don't know if there's any Philly scheduled to go. I think Jeff McNeil may go from the Mets. It is what it is, you just hope that nobody gets hurt there significantly. Because it really is for us, the fans, it's really the regular season that counts. And the baseball classic is pretty cool, but it's not that important in the big scheme of things when you're talking about a potential injury that could really put out a star player for any amount of time. So but they all like to play in it, and so what can you do? Nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, this year it starts up March 8th through the March 21st. So that's a good long time for a lot of players to be missing from your Major League Baseball team there at the World Baseball Classic. And if you're watching our video page, I just put up onto the screen the different teams. As the name implies, it's World Baseball Classic. So a lot of players will be playing on different nationality teams, so to speak. We have Chinese, Netherlands, Cuba, Italy, Panama in Pool A, and that's going off in Taiwan. And over in Tokyo, it's Japan, Korea, Australia, China, and the Czech Republic. So the second round over there in the Far East, so to speak, is in Tokyo. That's sort of the quarterfinals around. And then in the other side of the world, Pool C is USA, Mexico, and Colombia, Canada, and Great Britain. They're going to be in Phoenix, Arizona. And Pool D is Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Israel, and Nicaragua. They're going to be camped out and based out of Miami, Florida. And the quarterfinals for that section of the world will be Miami, Florida, with the championship and the semifinals being held in Miami, Florida. So it's going to be 3 weeks solid of World Baseball Classic play.
Yeah, that's pretty much going to take up a lot of the time there. And I was just looking up here to see that the Italian team, I was curious to see who the manager was, and it's going to be Mike Piazza again. So he'll be in Taiwan, and he's had a busy off season for a Hall of Famer. You know, he was in that TV show where they're doing the boot camp or whatever you call it, SEALs training. I don't know, crazy stuff. And now he's the manager of the Italian baseball team in the World Baseball Classic. But yeah, a lot of plays going to be spread out all over the place, and it's odd that it's ending that late, because that only gives you 9 days to I think opening day is what, March 30th this year. And
yeah, March 30th. Yep.
You know, that's 9 days. Of course, they'll be in game readiness, the players that are playing, but you know, you kind of lose that communication with the team. The Mets, I'm sure Francisco Lindor will be gone, and McNeil, I said maybe Alonso. So you know, they're not gonna have a lot of time to play together to get that down. But I guess it opens up. Oh, excuse me. It opens it up for some of the younger guys to have a chance to, you know, get in there and see and show what they can do.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. As you said, opening day, March 30th. So we're not too far away from that either. We're getting close. 30 days to this World Baseball Classic. And some of the spring training homes for the current MLB teams. Let's roll through that real quick. And I'm always amazed at how these stadiums keep changing their names, because you get used to one thing with a team, and then it seems like the next year the stadium's named something different, including the Phillies.
You know what happens? They get a different sponsor, and these teams and these fields are all home to minor league teams. So whether it be the Florida State League or some other league, the Phillies are in the low A league there, the Southeast League. So it's what happens, you know, because then we're looking at it just spring training, but they're running a business down there as well. So, you know, that's what happens, and it's all about making money. Some great names though, aren't there? The Baycare. I like the Century Link Sports Complex.
Yeah. Baycare, of course, is the Phillies this year. We'll jump across to Milwaukee. American Family Fields of Phoenix sponsors that stadium there. Just went under a $60 million plus renovation down there. As you said, Century Link Sports Complex. And how about the Camelback Ranch over in Arizona for the shared White Sox and LA Dodgers sharing that stadium?
Yeah, and you know that's amazing in itself, because for so many years the Dodgers were in Dodger Town in Vero Beach, Florida, and you know, I mean, they were one of the first ones to really have a huge complex, I think, all to themselves, and now to be sharing something. But it makes sense, I guess, for them to move to Arizona, being that they're a West Coast team anyway. So kind of silly being in Florida. Though it gave the people something else to see. So, but yeah, 13 years they've been out there now, so quite a bit of time has gone by.
Yep. Tampa Bay playing in what they call Charlotte Sports Park there, and Goodyear Park for the Cleveland, whatever they call themselves these days. I still think of them
Guardians.
as the Indians, but yeah, the Guardians. And Chicago Cubs, they're sharing, or Cincinnati, I'm sorry, that's Cincinnati, and Cleveland sharing that Goodyear ballpark
Right.
in downtown Phoenix. New York, they seem to have a new name for this park
Oh
every year.
good.
It's now
Yeah.
Clover Park.
Yeah. Clover Park. What can I say?
Yeah.
But they made some they have a nice complex, I'm told, and they just made a bunch of renovations, and should be pretty nice.
Yeah, Port St. Lucie there in Florida. Cool Today Park for the Atlanta Braves. I like the name of
Yeah.
that.
Cool today, hot tomorrow, I guess.
Exactly. It's always hot there in
And
Florida.
that's like they how many times have they moved down? I mean, because weren't they in that whole
The Disney,
Disney thing?
yeah.
And now it doesn't say where they're playing, but is this a different area, or
Let me click on it here on
they
the
keep
info.
moving, yeah.
Um, yeah, it's not really saying too much other
Yeah.
than the name of the park. Cool Today, West Villages, Florida, wherever that is.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, Located adjacent to the Tamiami Trail Corridor in South Sarasota County. So it's down there, city of Venice and
Yeah.
Northport. So yeah, pretty cool the way they've moved around. Can't keep track of those guys too much.
That's for sure. Never mind the name changes of the park. You can't even track where they are.
Yeah, yeah. Oakland
A's out
A's,
there.
mhm,
Holcomb Stadium.
Mesa, Arizona,
They got
and
a nicer stadium down there than they do probably in at home.
yeah, Baltimore Orioles in Sarasota as well. Ed Smith Stadium here, built in 1989. And over in Peoria as well, Arizona, San Diego Padres and Seattle Mariners share a stadium. And back to the National League, we have the Houston Astros with the Washington Nationals
National.
sharing a
Yeah.
stadium.
Yeah.
Ballpark of the Palm Beaches. So interesting the way these teams share a stadium. I'm very
Well, they
astounded
share
at it.
it. Yeah. They share the complex, and these places are so big that it really. And I guess it's good because they can play other teams in competition when like sometimes uh I guess the Phillies do it too. The Mets will have a split squad, and they'll play sometimes they'll play each other, sometimes they'll send one on the road, one plays at home, just to get more players in there. um so this is they can do the same sort of thing but against another team. So I guess it works and it saves money.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
spring training is a very expensive proposition for some of these teams. So it's not cheap, but it's necessary.
yeah, and the tickets aren't that cheap anymore. As we saw, a lot of the teams departed this past week for their homes in spring training land. There, I don't know if you saw the Mets depart there from
Yeah,
City
packing up.
Field. The Phillies left from Citizens Bank Park with a big truck and all of
Yeah.
it's trucked down there. That's amazing to me. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, the Yankee Stadium down in Tampa, George M. Steinbrenner Field, and that's a legitimate stadium down there. I'll tell you, I was most impressed with the few stadiums that I checked out down there. That one seemed to have the biggest infrastructure around it. That seemed like it was substantial.
Yeah, that's true. You were down there, and it was unfortunately it was the COVID time, if I remember correctly, and everything was closed. Look at that JetBlue Park there. That's nice looking, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Boston, there, JetBlue Park at Fenway South, they call it. And yeah, it's going to be all a hubbub of activity down there soon, down in Florida. I was thinking about going again, Gary, but man, I checked out some of those prices of the hotels and I was like, wow, it's not very fan friendly with that. So I'm still trying to make up my mind whether I'm going to take a trip down there, but for the same amount, I could buy a whole Sunday season plan for 2 seats for 24. I already have my 23 seats, but I was like, don't know if I want to do that whole trip. I'd rather buy a whole season of tickets the following year.
Yeah, you get to see more games that way, so maybe you're better off.
So we'll be talking more about spring training as it gets closer. A lot of stories. There's always great stories that come out of spring training, the way the players arrive in their new cars and trucks. I remember a few years ago, players from both our favorite teams had some interesting wheels that they showed up in. Gary.
Yeah, Yoenis Cespedes showed up with some fancy cars, and it seemed like every day he had a different car because his ranch, it was or his whatever you want to call it, was not far from this stadium. It was within a car's drive, and I don't know how far it was, but it was close.
Yeah.
And so he would show up and show his extensive collection of cars, some quite exotic. I don't believe he ever showed up in a Prius or anything like that. It was all pretty exotic stuff, Lamborghinis, and he had a couple of these cars that were built for him, and so very interesting stuff. And it throws a sideline. He even showed up one day on horseback, so though I have a feeling he didn't ride the horse the whole way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do remember that every day was something new and it
Yeah.
made the news. And one of the Phillies pitchers from a few years ago, I was trying to think about this the other day, and I used to remember exactly who it was and an exact truck. It was like a GMC medium 4500 series heavy duty truck he showed up in. And this thing had a couple, like 3 axles on it. It was huge. It was,
Yeah.
an SUV from hell almost. It was, don't get in the way of that truck because he's definitely going over top of you with that thing. But yeah, if I can find a picture of that during the show, I'm going to put it up online for our viewers to see. But yeah, he was a pitcher, and it was probably a good 10 years ago. And this thing was a beast, this truck. I'll never forget it.
Could it be Halliday?
No, it wasn't Halliday. It wasn't Halliday. I think it was before Halliday. But I'll research it. I'll have it for you by the end of the show, hopefully.
But spring training brings, everybody's optimistic about their team and all of that. So it's a fun time, and we can't wait for it to come.
That's for sure.
Summer's right around the corner.
Yeah, that warm feeling. Baseball, summer, apple pie, all that stuff. Well, here's a little factoid for you, Gary. You wondered about the truck that a lot of these teams bring down, or set of trucks that they bring down, tractor trailers. Here's something that the Phillies put out every year, or the press does around the Phillies. They take 10,000 cups down there to the ballpark, 2,400 baseballs, 2,000 long and short sleeve shirts, 1,200 bats, 900 pairs of socks, 600 pairs of pants, 600 batting practice hats, 350 pairs of shorts, 300 batting gloves, 250 batting practice tops. The list goes on and on and on. So, that they pack all that stuff in and take it down there. So it's pretty interesting the way these teams pack up and just go to spring training.
It's fascinating. It really is the stuff that they bring. You would think that the facility down there would have some of the stuff like cups and things, but I guess because they're, some of them are separately owned businesses. I guess it doesn't,
Doesn't pay them to,
it
to keep
doesn't
all that
pay
stuff
them,
down there.
or they have to reimburse or whatever, so they just bring it with them. But
They truck it
yeah,
on down.
it's fascinating stuff, when you see the lists of things, and the numbers are kind of mind-boggling, but they go through a lot of that stuff. Imagine ordering for that, though. How do you? I mean, you get to know over time what you need, but still, it's 900 pairs of socks.
Yeah, it's amazing. So it's all heading down to your respective favorite ballparks, whether it be in Arizona, if you're, a West Coast fan with the Dodgers, or the Cubs or somebody like that, or an East Coast fan. So
Yeah,
looking
they're all
forward to
doing.
seeing that.
Well, Rich, you know what? There also teams are announcing special dates during the year. The Mets are going to have a Hall of Fame, the Mets Hall of Fame ceremony, and they've announced who's going in and the date. And the Dodgers announced just yesterday that the organization will retire Fernando Valenzuela's number 34 jersey this summer during a 3-day Fernando Mania celebration. The weekend will start on Friday, August 11, which is when Valenzuela number 34 will be unveiled at the Dodger Stadium. There will also be a collector's edition bobblehead given away on Saturday, August 12th, and a replica of Valenzuela's 1981 World Series ring, and that will be handed out on August 13th. So it's a whole big weekend that the Dodgers are going to celebrate Fernando Valenzuela, and one of the great lefties of all times with his screwball, and boy, he was tough to hit. He was something in his prime, and I think the screwball is the left-handed screwballs. I don't know if it bothered him as much, but going back to the old days, Carl Hubble, who with the old New York Giants, his arm was actually turned inward like that from throwing so many screwballs, because when you throw the screwball, it's the opposite of a curve. Curve,
Right.
you break your wrist that way. Screwball, you break it in this way. He threw so many, his arm was like twisted almost. But Valenzuela was a terrific pitcher. I don't know if you got to see much of him in his prime, but he was a tough one.
Yeah, I remember that wind up where he looked up to the skies. That's what I noticed most about pitchers, especially his wind up. He had that peek up to the sky as he was doing his routine of delivering the baseball to the
Yeah.
home plate. So he had that really demonstrative move about him. The Dodgers have had a few of the guys like that over the years. I remember the Tornado would do that as well. A Japanese pitcher, he's one of my favorite. Hideo Nomo, Valenzuela. And you can remember guys before them like Al Raboski. They had these unique deliveries. So not a big fan of retiring jerseys, especially, in that manner. Honor them in a way, but I just now number 34 will never be worn by any Dodger. So anytime that happens, I'm not a big fan of it, even with my own favorite team. I think they could put something in as an honorary number, maybe, and have the name on the jersey. Look at the Yankees, for example. They have very many, or very few rather, single digit numbers left for any of the players.
I don't believe they have any.
Yeah.
But it's a way of honoring the player that really means a lot to the player, in that a plaque is nice, but when you walk into a stadium, you see that number retired. That really hits home. It hits home to the fans. It hits home to the player himself. It really does. So I don't have a problem with it. I think it's a great thing. I think the Yankees got a little crazy there for a while. They would just retiring them left and right, and they probably got a few that shouldn't have been retired. Of course, there's a couple that should. I mean, Babe Ruth at 3, definitely. Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, of course, and Yogi Berra, number 8. So I mean, those guys I could see. Phil Rizzuto, yeah, I don't know. He was there a long time, but he had to most people today, he's more remembered as a announcer than as a player. But I don't have a problem with it as far as retiring numbers.
Okay, well, very cool. So the Dodgers will be honoring him this year, and I'm sure some other players around baseball will have similar, um, honoring from the teams, not necessarily the number being retired, but that's baseball. It's great that they bring these older players back and remember how good they were and what they, accomplished for the teams.
Mm-hmm.
In just the last few minutes, I was able to come up with the truck and the pitcher from the Phillies. So I'm going to put this up on our screen for the viewers. And, to get the full impact of this, you got to watch the video. So go
Holy
over
cow.
to our YouTube page, and there it is.
Lieber.
Apparently it's from 2009, apparently. I didn't think it was that. I thought it was beyond that. But there's the truck. It was a GMC like 6500 or something. The thing was a beast. Looks like it had about a 200-gallon fuel tank or something on it.
How the heck? And you need a ladder to get into that damn thing.
Yeah. It says, I wonder if he's still driving the behemoth, considering he's currently unsigned. That was the end of John Lieber's career, I believe, as a pitcher. And that was his truck. I mean, talk about, it's almost like a semi, that truck.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at the back seat of that, or whatever that is back there. There's 2 windows.
Yeah.
Got a lot of space there.
Yeah, it was definitely customized. You can tell there's
yeah.
There's 3 rows to the truck. You take a whole family in there, a whole team
you're
practically.
Right. It does look like a look at the front of it. It doesn't look like a regular. I mean, from what we can see, it doesn't look like a regular pickup.
No, not at all.
Wow, that's huge.
But yeah, that was one that I'll never forget. Vehicles from Phillies players. Usually you get the Mercedes, the BMW,
yeah.
Something like that.
Oh no, those days are gone. Now everything is with the trucks.
Yeah,
the big ass customized trucks. That's the thing now. So, everybody's driving them things. But yeah, I remember the old Mercedes and the BMWs, and then for a while it was Porsches and Lamborghinis and for the biggest stars. Now it's back to trucks, and I think Brandon Nimmo, maybe he'll get a new car. He was like driving a 2007 Lexus or Acura or something. But he said he
Yeah, yeah.
liked it. He liked it. He was comfortable with it. 2009, maybe, I don't know, something like that. But he liked his truck, so I mean his car, so he kept driving it. So
Yep. And I just saved that photo for my archives there in my Phillies memorabilia, because I've looked for that truck a couple times over doing some research for shows like this, my own Phillies Talk podcast, and also if you check out one of those shows, you'll probably see it again. So
you mean you don't have one for sale in your place
in
of
my
business?
my place of business, not quite like that. I mean, there's a couple real nice ones, but that one is a beast. So looking forward to that. What else do we have this week?
Well, we had something else happen that you don't see happen a lot, Rich, and that's the a player lost a salary arbitration hearing. I say lost in air quotes because the Braves starting pitcher Max Fried lost his salary arbitration hearing on Friday to determine whether his 2023 salary would be the Braves' offer of $13.5 million or his request of $15 million. So he lost $1.5 million. In the scheme of things nowadays, that's not that big a loss, you know. Uh, the club has not confirmed the news, but this is what's being reported. Even with the ruling going in the club's favor, the Braves' opening day payroll is expected to be above the first threshold of the competitive balance tax. And you know that brings up an interesting point, because with the way the Mets are spending now, and the money that they have, these other teams have to start spending as well. And how long before they can't just physically can't do it anymore? Like in Atlanta, Philadelphia can probably stay with the Mets because of it's a big city, and Atlanta's a big city, but it's still got a small town field. So um we will see how that affects the balance of power in the NL East. But that's something that you see every day. In that the guy lost an arbitration. Usually, it's the other way. The team usually loses, but in this case, the Braves won the case, and they save $1.5 million.
Yeah, it's amazing because Max Fried was money for the Braves last year, finished second in Cy Young voting.
Right.
And it's sort of like a tight line. Some of these players walk with an organization, like, do they hold that against the team? Hey, you want me long term, but you wouldn't give me $1.5 million, like maybe I'll go free agent, and try to,
Yeah,
you know,
but I you know what I think I think a lot of these guys know what they want. They're gonna, the odds are what they're gonna get. The team's gonna offer ahead of time, and they just go higher for the arbitration to see if they can win the case and get it. And you know, did he lose the case? Yes, he lost $1.5 million, but like I said, I don't think he's going to be crying over $13.5 million a year versus 15 million. I mean, it's literally the same thing. And he won a couple of cases. He won his last arbitration case, which awarded him 6.85 million instead of the Braves 6.6 million. So that's even closer. You know what I mean? I don't think the Braves are that upset. I don't think he's that upset. Sometimes they take it to effect. It's too big a jump. And, the Braves practically doubled his salary from last year. He wanted a little bit more. I think everybody goes away happy. We had the situation here with the Jeff McNeil. He was going to go to arbitration, and then they announced that they signed him for, what was it, 5 years or something like that, $50 million. And everybody says that was a bargain. Now you wonder why he would have went to arbitration, but he would have made probably 8 million in arbitration. They signed him for 10 or 12. So, and he's happy. So now they tied up a player for a couple of years, and I'm surprised the Braves didn't try to tie him up a couple of years ago for a lot less money, but they didn't, and now they're gonna pay. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next year if he's getting 13 and a half, and if he has another big year like he had last year. He's going to want more. He's going to want 20, 21 maybe. And are they willing to pay it, or can they physically pay it? They might just let him go if they have something in their farm system that they are sold on. So we'll see. But he's 29, and look, 13.5 million's not a bad way to start off.
Not at all. Well, you're listening to the Baseball Talk Radio Show podcast. You can find a whole lot of baseball podcasts over at baseballtalkradio.com. It's the home for great baseball talk shows, including Gary's own show called Mets Musings. And I have a show there, Phillies Talk Podcast. And Baseball PhD is one of my favorite shows with Ed Casputis and Farley Dillinger and Ed Rantola. And Gary, your buddies there in New York have a great show, Baseball and Barbecue.
Yeah, Jeff and Len do a terrific show, Baseball and BBQ. And catch this week's episode because I'm on it. They asked me to sit in, and we for an interview, and they interviewed. And it was my honor to sit down with them and talk to Mr. Mark Gold, who you probably have maybe one of his products in your refrigerator. Yeah,
Gold's horseradish.
Horseradish, yes.
Okay.
Or a number of other products. They expanded, though he did sell the business a few years ago. But his company, his family started it. He worked there and ran it for a number of years. And yeah, he was a great guest. Him and I got along great because we were talking about all the old days of the Mets. He was fan since the beginning. He started a newsletter as a kid, the first one apparently for the Mets back in 1962. He tells us about that in the interview. He tells us about how he got in. The Mets had a tradition. He got into promoting with them, and they gave away bobbleheads for a number of years. And the curse of the bobblehead, some of them that they decided to do, the players did not work out at all for them. But they eventually broke that curse, and it's a great interview. So go check it out at Baseball and BBQ with Jeff and Len. And I just sat in for that interview. They have 2 other interviews on that show this week, and it's a great episode. And you can find the link. I'll put the link up on my Facebook page, so you can, if anybody's a Facebook page friend of mine, or on the Mets Musings group, and we can put it on the Baseball Talk Radio group as well.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a terrific show. Go check them out. And like I always say, the only problem with this show is whenever it's over, I feel hungry.
And that's a good thing. You always want to stay hungry. keeps you yearning for more. But check out baseballtalkradio.com. It's got the 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week feed. You ever wake up in the middle of the night, can't sleep, want to listen to some baseball, you can click on that microphone there, and you'll be taken right to the page that streams audio. So very good stuff there. And patronize that page, by the way. Hit an ad or two. It's going to put a little jingle into the pocket, help pay some of the bills of that website. So check it out, baseballtalkradio.com. If you want to send us an email on this show, it's rich@baseballtalkradio.com or gary@baseballtalkradio.com. That's our email addresses. And we'd love to hear from you guys out there. We were just talking before the show. We think the COVID time has, erased a lot of our listeners, because we used to listen and hear from you guys quite a bit. You'd send us some emails, and I know Jeff always does. Jeff's out there. But, a few others, if you're still listening, drop us a line, say hello. If nothing more, let us know that you're out there. So, Gary, it was a great show. I can't wait till next week. We'll be closer to spring training. And that warmth is just coming right through the internet here. I can warm my hands up to it almost.
It can't get here fast enough for me.
Well, thanks for listening to this edition, everyone. We're going to say goodbye to our Facebook feed here. And then the podcast listeners, thanks for listening as well. And we'll do another show next week and get into more of who's playing in each team, some superstar talk, and I'll have one of those baseball preview magazines, which I tried to get today, but I was locked out of the bookstore. It was opening late for some reason. So take care, everyone. We'll talk to you next week on the Baseball Talk Radio Show.